Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the April 15th, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee Planning Commission. We'll start with roll call. Commissioner Montgomery is absent. Commissioner Roth?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson?
Here.
Commissioner Willoughby?
Here.
Commissioner Beanhoff is absent. Commissioner Busby is here. Commissioner Wise?
Here.
Commissioner Braley?
Here.
Commissioner Les Smith? Commissioner Mudgett is absent. Commissioner John Smith?
Here.
Thank you. Would Commissioner John Smith lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Of the United States of America.
Consent agenda items 1 through 8 are listed under the consent items agenda. Unless there is a request to remove the items from the consent agenda, the items will be approved in one motion. Is there a request to remove the items from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Commissioner Willoughby.
I move to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Braley.
I'll second the motion.
Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda per staff recommendations? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. New business, Z021904, SP081904, FP031904, request rezoning from planned unit development mixed retail to planned office, approval of a plat and site plan approval for childcare daycare facility located in the 5400 block of Woodsonia. Mark?
Good evening, Mark Zilsdorf, City Planning staff. The applicant requests rezoning from planned unit development mixed residential to professional office, approval of a 2-lot subdivision plat, and approval of a site plan that will accommodate a 1-story daycare facility on 1 lot and leave a 0.9 acre site available for a future development on the 2nd lot. The existing site is a 293,438 square foot or 6.74 acre site of vacant land that is currently zoned planned unit development mixed residential. The site originally received preliminary approval for a townhome development in 2004, but the development was never constructed. The site was once considered for a Hy-Vee fast and fresh convenience store in early 2018, but the proposed development did not receive approval. Surrounding zoning includes R1 single-family residential to the east, CH commercial highway to the south and to the west, and planned unit development mixed residential to the north. The city's future land use map indicates that this parcel is planned for office service land uses, which is consistent with the requested rezoning. Amendments to the land use guide of the comprehensive plan in 2015 changed the designation on this property from medium density residential to office service. Because the originally approved townhome development did not come to fruition, the Planning Commission identified this portion of the tract for office development with the intent that additional office space would increase daytime population in the area. This, in turn, could spur restaurant and other service-oriented uses that are lacking in Western Shawnee. At the same time, the office use on the site was envisioned to serve as a buffer between existing homes on the east side of Woodsonia Drive and the more intense retail uses that have previously developed closer to K7 Highway. Office uses typically operate when adjacent residents are away at work and are closed in the evening when they return home. While the character of the area will change with the development of a daycare center in comparison to the mixed residential land uses that is currently zoned for, the proposed daycare will have a lesser impact to the vicinity than more intense retail uses like those in the nearby properties with the CH zoning district. Uses in the professional office zoning district typically have normal business hours and will likely be closed during times that nearby residences are occupied for the evening. Site traffic, lighting, and noise will all be increased by the proposal, and traffic from the proposed development will utilize Woodsonia Drive to access the site. Rezoning the property from professional office to planned unit development mixed residential will make the site consistent with the future land use guide and the city's comprehensive plan. The proposed rezoning will not be detrimental to the adjacent properties because it will provide a buffer of office and service-type land uses between existing retail and residential land uses. Approval of the request may benefit the health and welfare of the community by providing improvements to sidewalk connections in the vicinity and offering an additional daycare option for nearby families. As far as the site plan, the proposed site plan includes one 11,992 square foot daycare building on Lot 1 and a shared access drive between Lot 1 and Lot 2. Parking for the daycare is provided on the south and east of the building. Outdoor playground space is located on the west and north sides of the building. A trash enclosure is located off the main access aisle near the northwest corner of the building. The applicant has provided a conceptual site plan for Lot 2 to show how a future development may be situated on the site. And staff wants to point out that the site plan approval for Lot 2 is not part of this project. Plans for the development of Lot 2 require subsequent review and approval by the city, except for the shared access drive and the emergency turnaround. So anything that develops on Lot 2 other than the access drive and the turnaround that is currently shown would have to come back before this body for approval. The site is accessed via Woodsonia Drive at the northwest corner of the site. The applicant will make minor revisions to the existing landscape island along Woodsonia Drive to ensure adequate width for vehicles to access the drive. The proposed plan includes 40 parking spaces, which exceeds the required parking for childcare, which is one space per employee, and the applicant projects 10 to 15 employees. Parking and access will be shared between Lot 1 and the future development on Lot 2. The applicant also noted that the daycare will not allow drop-offs at vehicles. Instead, the parents will have to park and walk the children inside, and the excess parking will assist with the pickup and drop-off needs. The fire department reviewed the site for compliance with access needs for fire safety, and the plans provide a dedicated turnaround at the south end of Lot 2 that meets the fire department's needs. A turning analysis is included in the plan set that you received that shows how a fire truck could traverse the site. The city's transportation manager reviewed the traffic impact associated with this development and found that it to be in compliance with city standards for circulation. The existing configuration of streets, intersections, and traffic signals will be able to serve this development. As far as landscape, the proposed landscape plan provides a mixture of trees, shrubs, perennials, and sod that comply with city codes for landscaping. Special attention for buffer landscaping was provided on the east side of Lot 2 to provide screening from the residential homes on the other side of Woodsonia Drive. Groupings of trees have also been provided along the south frontage of the site, and foundation plantings at the south side of the building provide greenery to the main entrance of the daycare. The proposed building elevations are designed with four-sided architecture and feature a red brick as the primary material with neutral colored accents in split-face block. And I want to point out here, your report indicates the use of vinyl siding for a small portion of the entry feature on this project. That is incorrect, and we've spoken with the applicant, and they've agreed to use a hardy lap siding for that material. And just to point out, the only section that it is right here in this little peak of this entryway. The plans indicate using vinyl siding, and obviously our design guidelines do not allow that, so they've agreed to change to hardy lap. Varying roof lines and exterior walls provide articulation and visual interest to the building. The structure has ample glazing to provide natural light throughout the interior of the daycare, and a projecting canopy with stone columns draws attention to the main entrance on the south side of the building. As far as engineering, the Development Engineering Division has reviewed this project and has noted a few items. The applicant is responsible for installing a 5-foot sidewalk along the west side of Woodsonia Drive for the entire length of the property. The plans, there's a couple versions of plans that we received. I think the ones that got included in your packet show a 4-foot sidewalk, and that sidewalk would need to be increased to a 5-foot width. The applicant is responsible for widening the median on Woodsonia Drive across from the proposed commercial entrance. The applicant shall provide a connection as part of the final construction plans for this project, a private sidewalk connection out to the public sidewalk system as part of this project. The commercial driveway approach for this development shall be designed in accordance with the Shawnee Design and Construction Manual, and the applicant is responsible for submitting final street construction plans to development engineering for review and acceptance prior to construction. Storm drainage improvements required for this development will be designed in accordance with Shawnee Design and Construction Manual, Division 2300, Storm Drainage. The applicant has submitted a preliminary storm drainage study showing a conceptual grading plan, drainage system and drainage area map, and a drainage table summarizing the hydrologic and hydraulic analysis for the site. The study is substantially complete and adequate for the purposes of reviewing this site plan. This development is also subject to provisions of SMC Chapter 11.08 Stormwater Management, which pertains to the city's stormwater utility regulations. This project is also subject to provisions of SMC Chapter 11.16 Stormwater Treatment, which pertains to the implementation of stormwater treatment facilities to preserve and enhance the quality of stormwater runoff. This project is required to meet a minimum level of service of 4 based on Shawnee Design and Construction Manual standards. And the applicant is proposing the installation of a proprietary stormwater treatment unit to meet the required level of service. And the proposed proprietary unit has been designed and sized to treat the current site plan and, in addition, accommodate the future development of the lot to the east. This development is not subject to provisions of SMC Chapter 1124 Stormwater Detention, which pertains to the construction and maintenance of on-site stormwater detention facilities. The applicant submitted a stormwater management study stating that there are no known downstream flooding concerns. The applicant is also responsible for obtaining a land disturbance permit as required by the building division prior to undertaking any land disturbance or construction activities on the development site. And all private and public improvements for this development shall be constructed according to the applicable standards in the Shawnee Design and Construction Manual, and public improvement permits will be required for all public street, storm, and streetlight improvements. There's the material board for the building. As for the final plat, the applicant requests final plat approval for Childcare Center Shawnee, an office commercial subdivision. The plat contains 2 lots on 3.1 acres. This plat is for development. The plat for this development will be for conveyance purposes only, and all street, storm, and streetlight public improvements are required to be constructed in accordance with the conditions of the site plan. This development is subject to provisions of Shawnee Municipal Code Chapter 12.26, which pertains to the city's excise tax. The total estimated excise tax for this development is $25,661.30, based on a taxable area of 2.7 acres at the current rate of 21.5 cents per square foot. The developer may enter into an excise tax abatement agreement with the city that would allow for the suspension, partial or in full, for the excise tax that is due, subject to certain conditions set forth in the agreement and provided the final plat is approved and recorded prior to the expiration of the suspension of the excise tax as set by the city. This agreement between the property owner and the city shall be created, agreed upon, and executed prior to obtaining the mayor's signature on the recording copy of the final plat. And this subdivision is also subject to provisions of Shawnee Municipal Code 12.14 Park and Recreational Land Use Fund. Open space fees in the amount of 4 cents per square foot of lot area shall be paid prior to issuance of a building permit. Based on the square footage of each lot as shown on the plat, the estimated open space fees are $2,332.87 for lot 1 and $1,623.56 for lot 2. As far as staff's recommendations, staff recommends approval of Z-02-19-04, rezoning from planned unit development mixed residential to professional office for childcare at the northwest corner of Johnson Drive and Woodsonia Drive, subject to the following condition. 1, approval of the rezoning by the City Council and publication of the rezoning ordinance as required by state statute. Staff also recommends approval of SP-08-19-04, site plan approval for KinderCare at the northwest corner of Johnson Drive and Woodsonia Drive, subject to the following conditions. Approval of rezoning Z-02-19-04. Number 2, revise the plans to indicate a 5-foot wide public sidewalk along Woodsonia Drive. And I would like to add at this point, number 3, revise the plans to indicate the hardy lap siding in place of the vinyl siding as shown on the plan. And then staff would further recommend approval of FP-03-19-04, final plat for childcare center Shawnee, located at the northwest corner of Johnson Drive and Woodsonia Drive, subject to conditions 1 through 11 as listed within the staff report. And I'd also like to remind the Planning Commission that we will need 3 separate actions tonight. We'll need an action on the rezoning, and then a separate action on the site plan, and then a separate action on the final plat. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Is the applicant present? If you'd come forward and state your name and address. I'm sorry, over here at
You
the,
come up here.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Kopanen. I'm with 814 Development. Address is 3221 West Big Beaver Road, Troy, Michigan.
are you in agreement with staff recommendations?
Yes,
Thank you. Do you have a presentation at all to us?
I do not. I'm here to
Very
answer
fine.
any questions. If you guys have anything related to KinderCare in general or our development process, I'm more than happy to address any questions you may have.
Does the commission have any questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner Peterson?
First of all, this is going to be a really good use, and appreciate you working with staff on this, but more of a question for maybe staff than you. I know these are 2 separate lots, but landscaping is going to take place on Lot 2, because the one we're talking about is Lot 1, correct? It happens on both lots, but they're going to do that at this time, or are they waiting
Mark
for?
Zilstar, City Planning Staff. Landscape plan shows landscaping, you're correct, for Lot 1 around the building and along the south side along Johnson Drive. It also shows a landscape buffer along the east side of Lot 2.
Right.
I believe it was staff's belief that that landscaping would be installed along with the improvements on Lot 1. But that would be a recommendation of the Planning Commission if they feel differently that they could do differently. Because right now, there's no plans for Lot 2 to be developed.
Right.
They've shown a conceptual site plan, and if I'm speaking out of turn, please jump in. But there's no current plan for the development of Lot 2 at this point in time. So in order for that landscaping to be effective and have some impact, staff's opinion is it should be planted now with the improvements on Lot 1.
I do not disagree with that. And that also helped fulfill what we need for the entire 3.1 acres. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there will be additional landscaping required for Lot 2 for
Once it's
foundation
developed.
plantings and those kind of things. That's correct.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? Yes, Commissioner Wise.
Quick question, Mark. On the building elevations, I noticed you talked about the hardy plank siding, but there are other, what I'll call eyebrows on the roofs that show like a gray-green material. What is that intended to be? And those peaks?
I would have to take a look at that. That is a good question. I'd have to have the architect answer that. Provide this to the applicant, maybe they could work this out. You know, think is referring
This
to
materials here.
those little pieces there.
I believe I would need to confirm with our architect if we would need to make that the hardy board as well. That's something that we could definitely do. I know it isn't called out on the elevations, so on our typical prototype, it may be the vinyl, which is similar to the lower roof peak above the entrance door, but we would be able to change that to the hardy board as well, if that would be your recommendation.
Yeah, that would be fine. I'd like to go ahead and make that recommendation. So, and I think your number 3 already includes that if it's vinyl siding, we change it to hardy plank.
Correct.
So that would be acceptable. One other question, if you don't
Please,
mind.
continue.
And so there's no rooftop mounted equipment, correct? So we don't have to worry about ladders or anything like that on the elevation?
It's my understanding that is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Commissioner Peterson?
I'm sorry, it's another staff question, or maybe it is a question for you to answer. But on page 8 of 12 for this, when it talks about, it mentions that the development is not located within the limits of the current floodplain, as well as that it doesn't include any streams or drainage channels to meet the stream corridor. But yet, under the land disturbance on the final point, it mentions that the applicant is responsible for obtaining such permits as may be required by the U.S. Corps of Engineers for grading covered by Section 401, basically the 3 points, maybe 4, of the Clean Water Act. Is that a just in case, or is that, where are we?
That is, Mark Zilstorf, City Planning Staff, that is just standard boilerplate language that we put in for all land disturbance. That's just part of the land disturbance language that we put in the reports. It's kind of a coverall if there are any permits or that are required, that the applicant's responsible for getting those. But there is no stream corridors and no floodplain issues on this particular site.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner John Smith?
A couple questions probably for staff. This is Lot 1 and Lot 2. The lot that's not being used, what would be appropriate use for that in the future?
Well, anything that would be an acceptable use in our code for the professional office zoning district, but most likely, given the shape and size of this site, it's probably going to be a small 4,000 to 6,000 square foot single-story office space, like a multi-tenant office building. That's about, given the width of it and the parking that's available, that's probably about all that you're going to be able to get to fit on there. In your packet, there is there's kind of a conceptual, just a real conceptual layout of how a building and the parking could fit on that.
If I may, is there any residences, the residences are on the other side of Woodsonia, is that correct?
That's correct. They are
Okay,
to the east
were they
side.
notified of this, or were they within the,
Oh, yes. They were, no, everybody within 200-foot radius of this property was notified.
okay, I'm just thinking of the noise. I don't know, when you get a group of children, particularly they're outside or something, it's,
Right. And with this particular plan, the playground is to the majority of the playground is on the west side of the daycare building, so it would be further screened from the residences to the east.
well, good. I think this is probably appropriate use. I agree with staff here. On sort of a technical thing, on page 87, under governing agencies and utility contacts, you mentioned gas, as far as Kansas Gas Service. At least in that area, it seemed like most of us get our gas from Atmos. Though Southern has a pipeline through there. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's a shared distribution.
I'm not sure, but we'll have the applicant look into that and make sure the plans are corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner Braley?
Thank you. This question for staff. One, I assume the requirement by adding the 5-foot sidewalk along Woodsonia is to also set the tone for future development going north on Woodsonia, that we would see that continued and connected so that we've got a path, 5-foot path all the way along Is that kind of your thinking?
That
why
is
we're-
correct. With
Okay.
new developments, the city is requiring 5-foot sidewalks now as
Okay.
opposed to the 4. Now, where we have infill development or in older areas, they will continue for short segments to use the 4-foot sidewalk, but when we're in new development areas like this, they will be installing 5-foot sidewalks.
Okay,
And that's what they installed just to the north with the new fire station.
excellent, excellent. Final question, without really, I was looking at the grading between the sidewalk on Johnson Drive down to the parking lot in front of the development. It's hard for me to visualize how steep that grade is, but does that allow an opportunity from that parking lot, just a short little sidewalk extension? So if somebody was at the KinderCare that worked there that wanted to gain access to that, to walk to the Walgreens or go to the pizza stop, that they could have a sidewalk connection?
That is one of the things that staff has pointed out, that we're still looking for a connection from this development out to the public sidewalk. So
Okay.
we will continue to work with staff to make that connection,
Okay,
or work with the applicant to make that connection.
okay. Good, I would continue with that, because again, that's kind of one of those things that you sit there and think about it. If we overlook it, we don't put it in at the time. If somebody wants to walk there and there's
Agreed.
grass and sprinklers, then that kind of is a barrier to getting a walkable community, which I know is something we're going to be striving for. So, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? I have a question for the applicant, even though you haven't stated it. How many children will this facility hold?
It should hold, I believe, about 125 to 130 students is what we typically hold.
120, and the hours that they're open, I would presume it is basically daytime hours?
Yes, it's usually 6 a.m. would be the earliest that we would open, and then 6 p.m. would be the latest pickup. And then kids are dropped off, well, not dropped off, but they are brought in and then picked up throughout various times of the day. So it's not like there's a ton of traffic all at once where all the kids are being dropped off at 6 a.m. It's kind of intermittent throughout the day.
That's interesting, intermittent. I'm a little surprised. It would seem like the majority of them would get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. The majority of them would go home at 5 o'clock. But if KinderCare has found that there's kind of a mixture that way?
Absolutely, yes. And a lot of it will depend upon the parents' work schedules, where they may drop them off at an earlier time or later time. But we do have different times that children are arriving and being picked up throughout the day.
And how late do they open?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And that's interesting, because even though we didn't discuss it, it seems to me that if it's 120 kids, then we're running roughly 70 cars in, and for the kids, you'd be at least 70 or 80 cars in and out every day. Is that correct? Does that sound about right? Okay. I'm not sure whether that creates, would that sound within the realm, Mark, of what we would normally expect, and that would meet the amount of egress we have, et cetera? That sounds like a lot of cars twice a day, but
Yeah, but
I don't have
they're
anything
not
to
all
base
going to
it
be
on.
there at once.
Correct.
Like she said, they're probably going to come in the morning over a 2 to 3 hour period and get picked up at night over a couple hour period. The parking lot currently meets our parking code. Actually, it exceeds what we
Right.
require by our parking code by quite a bit. So, yeah, I think what they're providing would be adequate, because they're not staying long. I mean, they're coming in, they're taking their kid in, they're signing them in, coming back out and leaving. So, I think there's going to be a lot of coming and going within that 2 hour period.
Could you show me how you plan to have cars coming in and out? Because I presume there's a circular pattern to drop them off. Is that correct?
Sure. So yes, all the parents are required to park their car and walk the child in. They would take them to the front desk, and then they need to actually be signed in. And then the parent would be able to reverse their car and then use the same entrance that they were utilizing to gain access to the property.
Very fine, thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
I know some kinder cares have like small buses that like where they go take kids to and from half day of kindergarten, or they come from an elementary school that they have after school care there to join siblings that maybe aren't old enough for school yet or whatever. Is this facility going to have one of those as well, or is it that going to be just depends?
That would depend. At this time, we don't have any specific plans for that. If the need is there, I know sometimes they might have a summer program that they run at some kinder care locations. It really just depends upon the need and the demand of the community.
And if that happens, is the bus going to be like this locations, or, and so it would continuously be parked there when it's not in use, or, I'm just curious.
If it was a smaller bus and legally parked within a parking stall, yeah, it could.
Well, I just know that some of our new parking stall sizes, that gets a little tight.
They would have to make a proper accommodations if they're going to have a bus parked in there at all times.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? If not, thank you, ma'am. And as this is a rezoning request, then we would now be in public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to weigh in on this matter? Seeing nobody that seems interested in this except us, then now we'd be in commission discussion. Commissioner Braley.
Yeah, I would like to just say, I think this is a great location and a very convenient location for sort of that part of Shawnee. I know, having been a parent, to when you're rushing off to work and needing to drop your kids off, something that's convenient to your major thoroughfares and right along K7 would be very convenient, I'm sure, for those along Johnson Drive. So I'm certainly in support of this project.
Thank you. We remain in commission discussion. I think one thing is, and we kind of tied it in, and I think we're going to make a motion that we certainly need to add in the landscaping on Lot 2, because sadly enough, we don't know what's going to happen on Lot 2. And if we don't add it in now and make sure that that's part of our recommendation and part that they have to comply with, then it keeps those people over on Woodsonia so that lights, other activities would be minimized. So to me, that's going to be an important part of what we're doing here. Commissioner Wise.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion on the first item to approve ZO2 19-04, rezoning from PUDMR to PO for kinder care at the northwest corner of Johnson Drive in Woodsonia, per staff recommendations.
Is there a second? Commissioner Les Smith?
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval of the rezoning of ZO2 1904 from planned unit development mixed residence to planned office at 5400 block of Woodsonia. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. That leaves us with two more items. Commissioner Les Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve SP 081904, site plan for kinder care daycare at 5400 block, in the 5400 block of Woodsonia Drive. Sorry.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner John Smith? There's a motion and a second to approve site plan 081904 for kinder care at 5400 block of Woodsonia. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may,
Commissioner Les Smith.
thank you. Does the applicant own Lot 2?
The applicant will be purchasing, they have a contract for Lot 2.
Okay,
They're
thank you.
purchasing the whole thing. And if I may, with that motion
Please.
and second, we may want to add those 4 conditions as part of that for the site plan. And those 4 conditions as listed would be approval of rezoning, which the second one would be revised plans to indicate a 5-foot public sidewalk along Woodsonia Drive. Number 3 would be revised plans to indicate hardy lap siding in place of vinyl siding as indicated on the architectural elevations. And then if you choose to add the 4th one, which you'd indicated, require the landscaping along the east side of Lot 2 to be installed with the construction of the KinderCare on lot.
And also, Mark, I think we'd add the 5th one about the sidewalk connection to Johnson Drive as well.
Very good. And the motion was made by Commissioner
Include all
Les.
of those things that Mark just said.
Commissioner Les Smith, thank you for abridging your motion to contain all 5 of those, and I presume the second still stands. Is that correct? So motion and second stands on SP 081904 per draft recommendations and the 5 things we just added to it. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. And that leaves us with the 3rd, which is the final plat, final plan,
Final plat.
final plat. Sorry. Commissioner Peterson.
I move that we approve FP-03-19-08 KinderCare what? 04,
04.
sorry, 04. Per staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Roth?
I'll second.
There's a motion, a second for approval of FP final plat, FP 031904, located at, for KinderCare, located at 5400 block of Woodsonia. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Then we get on to other business.
Staff has no other business this evening?
We have some young people in the audience. Where are you all from that you get to do this? Northwest. I see. So this is your government civics class? Did you learn anything here? I'm sorry? Ah. Okay. All right. Commissioner Roth.
What are you two here for?
Shawnee Chamber Leadership, Shawnee tomorrow, class of 96.
Cool.
That tomorrow
Oh.
group.
No.
Terrific. Does the staff have anything else for the commission?
No, sir.
Does the commission have anything for staff?
No.
Apparently not. I have one thing, and that is Commissioner John Smith. This will be his last meeting here because he's moving outside the city. And I tell you what, I want to thank you, John Smith, for the service to the committee, the service to the community. And I know there were times when you had things in your personal life going on, but you always made certain to try and be at the meetings if at all possible. And you're always generous with your time, and you're always inquisitive on things that we all need to learn about. I thank you very much for your service, sir.
On behalf of city staff, we'd like to thank you for your service and your valuable input over the years. So thank you.
In that case, we're looking for an adjournment. Commissioner Les Smith.
Mr. Chairman, in all seriousness, I would ask you to call on as I defer to Mr. John Smith so that he may adjourn his final meeting.
Commissioner John Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sure.
Commissioner Wise?
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion, a second to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're done, thank you, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, John.
I was
I don't know
about
if
to
you
give
saw
you a
emails.
really
I
hard
sent you
time
back
for
an email
noticing the
this
women in the
afternoon
back.
sometime
Well,
eventually.
they're mine, they're my Shawnee Mason
No,
class.
no, I know they are, but I was like, all right, I know, I know what your wife. I was like, really, Roth? I'm so disappointed.
One person can be from out of town.
I think he has a strain on his.
Questions for you?